Our next session is going to discuss entrepreneurship in a purposeful way, as I understand it, as part of the mission. So why don't we get started by asking our panelists to introduce themselves.
Great.
So it's my pleasure
Thank
to
you
introduce
so
Stephen,
much.
who I've known for quite a long time now. He used to be at Park's rival competitor, SRI International. I think he's still associated with them, and he also teaches, or did teach, at the business school.
No, I still do. Yeah, I'll
Go ahead.
explain.
Stephen?
Thanks, Mike. Well, thanks. Good morning, everyone. My name is Steve Szynski. As Mike said, I'm a private investor, advisor, board member for and manage our family office, which specializes in tech-oriented, high-growth private companies, along with global venture capital firms. Our investments center around a really interesting topic that we've been talking about, for-profit, but also for social good projects. I still teach. I've been teaching part-time at the business school here at Stanford on venture capital and entrepreneurship topics, authored many case studies and notes, and have actually created 3 courses. All those courses are around doing startups in developing economies. Think Africa, Latin America, the Mideast, Central Europe, Southeast Asia, as opposed to most of the courses which focus around Silicon Valley. I'm involved with a number of mission-oriented nonprofits, including Life Moves, which specializes here in the peninsula finding transition housing for the homeless, and also Yosemite Conservancy. I'm sure you all know Yosemite National Park. In my past career, I've run a number of high-tech, growth-oriented companies, and as Mike indicated, my last position, I was president of SRI International here in Menlo Park. So I'm very excited today to have a fireside chat. We need a little fireplace here with Narges Banyasadi, okay, who is going to talk about her project concerning emergence and purposeful entrepreneurship. So Narges, maybe you can start off by introducing yourself and then your pathway, your journey to this new exciting project.
Thank you very much, Steve. Hello, everyone. Very happy to be here and introduce our program to you. My name is Narges Banyasadi. I'm an adjunct faculty with the bioengineering department at Stanford and also founder of this new program called Emergence. So I'll give you a quick background about myself, which is related to why we started this program. I grew up in Iran. I studied computer sciences there and then got to Stanford for my grad school. In 2004, actually, I arrived to US exactly 18 years ago this day. So it's a special day. And I studied computational biology here. And after finishing my PhD, I started a company called Bina. And in Bina, we built bioinformatics, AI, and high-performance computing platforms for genomic analysis. So my journey to entrepreneurship was very much inspired by the education I received at Stanford. Seeing a lot of role models here and taking entrepreneurship classes in different schools and departments, especially the business school, was very inspiring. I ran my company for a few years, and it got to millions of dollars in revenue and funding, and we eventually sold it to Roche Pharmaceutical, where I became vice president of AI and informatics. After I finished my tenure at Roche, which was another very rewarding journey, and I learned how to build clinical and FDA-approved products globally, I left the corporate world. I was a little bit, bored of the corporate world, but most importantly, I was searching for a more meaningful career, and I was soul-searching and really waking up to a lot of societal challenges we are facing today, whether they are climate change or societal inequalities we are facing. And it took me a few years to figure out what I want to do next. And in between, I worked with nonprofit organizations as well as early-stage venture builder programs in Europe and US, and put all of my learnings together and came back to Stanford with the question of how can we channel more innovation towards solving the big societal problems we are facing. So the UN SDGs give us a good framework, and we are all quite behind achieving them.
Well, that's a great kickoff to what we want to talk about today. And I know in a sense, the prelude was given by Richard from McAllister, somewhere in the audience here this morning, because it really hit upon some of the things that you, I know, and I have been talking about. So what does Emergence really want to accomplish?
Yeah, so Emergence goal is to create a healthy and inclusive future through purposeful entrepreneurship. So we know that addressing these global challenges needs a lot of effort, and maybe previously we were thinking that it's mostly the role of nonprofits, foundations, and the governments to tackle them. But the private sector play a very important role both in creating some of these problems as well as an opportunity to address them. So that is what we are focusing on, and entrepreneurship is basically planting the seeds of future businesses. So if we start from on the right path, there's much better chance that we can build the private sector in a way that is really addressing these challenges and is a steward of people and planet. So our mission is to inspire, educate, and support students and researchers to translate their research into impact. And the reason I came back to the education sector, especially Stanford at the heart of Silicon Valley, is that I think, my own experience, I wouldn't really start my company if it was not for the education I received in entrepreneurship. And in the universities, we have a lot of time with the next generation. This is the time we can educate them, equip them, and change their mindset and show them alternative pathways to have meaningful careers. That's why I came back and I found this kind of missing piece of the puzzle, which is build these new frameworks. Frankly, we do need new frameworks and scholarship on these areas, both in terms of the science and technology, but also, as we heard from the previous speaker, on the business models and approaches to funding.
Okay, so that gets us started. So why did you select Stanford? I know you know Stanford quite well, but why Stanford? Why not MIT? Why not Caltech? Why not Duke or some other great university?
So this is kind of my home base. I owe, of course, to Stanford. I got my education here, and also here, we are really the epicenter of innovation in the world, and many of the entrepreneurship practices got born at Stanford. When you think about design thinking, lean launchpad, biodesign, which are now scaled globally and being used in every other entrepreneurial hub in the world, they were born here. So I think there's this ripple effect here, and we have so many amazing entrepreneurship programs. We are not trying to replicate them, but we are trying to build connection between them and bring these themes of collaboration around these topics to every center.
So I want to pick up on that. I teach at Stanford's Business School. We have lots of classes and so on, and centers around entrepreneurship, including social innovation. I saw Tom Byers here earlier. We've got a fantastic set of curriculum in the engineering school on this. There's X and other arrangements are going on all over the university. How do you fit in? Are you complementary to them? Do you see yourself as a competitor to what they're doing? Let's get this out on the table.
That's a very good question. Yes, Stanford is full of innovative centers. So I have two answers to it. One is that, as you know, Stanford is structured around disciplines. Yeah, we have business school, we have engineering, we have medicine, we have art and sciences, and the programs naturally are more kind of centered around their discipline. But addressing these global challenges, we really need transdisciplinary and interdisciplinary effort. So we need to bring really the goodness from all the centers together. And we are a little bit playing that connective tissue role. We are hosting convenings and making connections. But at the same time, we have our own unique focus in the content that we are developing for the education program, which is around societal and planet health. You heard a lot yesterday on Friday about the School of Sustainability, of course. The perspective we are taking about these challenges is through the societal health perspective. And we see a huge link between the rise of chronic illnesses in the country and inequalities with the phenomena of climate change, as well as other aspects such as health equity, misinformation, and so on. And there is no particular program that is addressing these societal health challenges. Again, the typical health innovation, the path that I went before I come back to Stanford is through building devices and drugs and very clinical view to these interventions. And we are focused on these non-clinical factors, as well as build the foundations for purposeful entrepreneurship, which is more about how you go about building these companies so you can stay on mission for the long run.
So you see yourself as a complement and possibly even convening groups together so that they can work together with you and get more punch for what each of us are doing at our different schools. Is that how you would?
That is part of the work, yeah.
So I remember earlier you had talked about your mission to inspire, to educate, and to support. Can you be a little bit more specific about what you mean? Are you going to be doing research? Are you going to be developing coursework? How are you going to do this?
Sure. I think we have some slides. We're going to jump there. Yes. So how we do things, we develop coursework. We look at all the three pillars of innovation, starting really building this whole ecosystem from ground up. We develop experiential coursework in these areas, as well as a lot of unofficial co-curricular activities such as mentorship programs, speaker series, workshops, and so on. We also support researchers who are working on translating their research to impact in these areas, as well as building the whole entrepreneurship ecosystem outside campus. So our focus is, the students and help them with their entrepreneurial journey. And as you can imagine, most of it happened when they left Stanford, when they leave Stanford. So it's very important to build that partnership ecosystem, whether it's corporates that they want to pilot the solution or provide mentorship or funding for this type of companies. And this is an opportunity, I think, for many people in our audience today, if they're interested, to get involved with our program and get to know some of these entrepreneurs to get involved with our program. And as an example, we developed this course with the collaboration with the Biodesign. Biodesign is a very established center at Stanford, more than 20 years old. And their focus is in health tech innovation. So they're partnering us up with us, going back to the theme of partnering with different centers to bring this theme of health equity and societal health to health innovation. So we developed this course for the first time in the spring quarter called Biodesign and Entrepreneurship for Societal Health. We looked at issues such as mental health, food security, and misinformation and so on. And we have a lot of inspiring, successful founders come and speak to the students, as well as we source real-world problems from external partners. And then students work on these problems, and at the end of the quarter, they pitch like a startup to a panel of investors. And several of them I know are continuing on their project.
All right, so that helps me to pick up another subject that we've been talking about, is this tension, which I think is a really hot topic on college and university campuses, certainly at the business school, I know around the university, is capitalism sort of versus social good, or for-profits versus not-for-profits, stakeholders versus shareholders. Is your coursework, is your intention only to support not-for-profits? Are for-profits also included? Are you agnostic in the students who are coming here to you for some help with some projects? So what do you expect to inspire?
That's a very good question. Yeah, and that is a question I was, struggling with for a few years. And we decided to focus on the for-profit sector because that has the biggest opportunity to grow and scale and impact people's lives, as well as when there is, a business model and revenue involved, you get a feedback from your customers. So your success depends on your impact, basically. So this is a funny cartoon from New Yorker that, the old paradigm of business that you only optimize for shareholder value and profits is no longer sustainable, and frankly is not aligned to the realities of the world and how we want to be as business leaders. We want to be purposeful, as the previous talk mentioned very well. We want to, of course, cash is oxygen. We want to grow our companies and scale, but we do it for a bigger reason, and the bigger reason is the purpose. So the whole business industry is waking up to this and transforming, and we look at different frameworks. This framework I got from the Impact Frontiers is a global network of impact investors that are trying to define how companies are incorporating purpose in their operations. And they have this framework called ABC. A is to avoid harm, basically, mitigating your risk because the basically policies are catching up. So reducing your carbon footprint or create safe work environments. B is to benefit stakeholders. So that is to think about these win-win situations. Yeah, you take care of your employees, you take care of the communities you are operating in. It's actually good for your business. You're going to even make more money, and you're ensuring your long-term success. And the C is actually the whole purpose of your business is to solve societal problems. So your profit and business is to serve this bigger purpose. And that is where we are mainly focusing with our coursework. And we look at societal health problems, climate change, and so on, and how we can align business models with actually impact that they are not in divergence.
All right, that's a really good explanation, and thanks for that slide. Now, this has been a little bit abstract for me. Do you have some examples of students that you've worked with or some of their projects where really you're at the ground floor of helping these students out?
Sure, I can definitely talk about that. So we have some student examples. So Tim Schnabel was a PhD student in the bioengineering department. He left now and has raised some good amount of money building his company. And it's a synthetic biology company. They are building microbes that create the next generation of really nature-based fertilizers that are good for environment as well as food security. Anton Molina, he works with Professor Prakash in bioengineering department, was part of our mentorship program last quarter, and they are building plant-based sanitary pads using also decentralized, affordable production techniques that can really help with preventive health measures as well as saving the planet from plastic waste. And these three bright, brilliant students, they were taking my course last quarter, and they focused on the Latinx community in California as their pilot study group, and they looked at, many people in the country, unfortunately, are pre-diabetic or diabetic, and community healthcare workers are very effective ways of intervention and helping people to connect with the healthcare system, but they're usually grassroots, ineffective organizations in terms of their scale. So this team are set to build a tech-enabled, scalable, community-led organization to integrate it with the healthcare.
Great, some really good examples.
Thank
All right, so last question before maybe we'll take a question or two from the audience. I think we have time. And that is, what's the call to action? How are you being funded? We saw some examples earlier. I saw some slides of corporate executives, CEOs of company who are all for what it seems that you're after. Are they opportunities? How can this audience help? We have a host of professionals here from lots of different walks of life.
Thank you for the question. We are funded by philanthropy, so we really appreciate support. But there are many other ways to get involved, of course. We would love to source problems for classes. We would love to have mentorship. And we would love to work with you to create this whole new community of purposeful businesses. Because I think we're still in the minority, and we need to really connect together and have a stronger voice in changing the world of business.
Well,
and you have my email address there if you want to reach out. Sorry.
And you'll be around all day today?
Yes.
Okay,
that's
with
the
a
plan.
poster. So Narges, thank you very much for that. Can we take maybe a question or two from the audience?
One question. Any questions? Yes, Michael.
Yes, very interesting. I'm a professor of medicine and management, interesting combo, from McMaster University. And we're launching a national program for health leaders in Canada on the public health system. We have 11, we have a number of provinces and territories. Each one is a separate health system. So the themes you've mentioned, systems leaders, health equity, a lot of those themes resonate deeply. It's your comment around how do you connect those through education, through experiential activities. So I'd be interested just to hear, what are one or two things that you've been trying to put into practice?
So, yeah, that's a good question. Through connecting with people outside the university, I would say, because you need practical knowledge on those things. That is why the way we are designing our lectures usually has 3 parts. The first part, we just teach the innovation process, system thinking. It's more didactic. The second part, we bring inspiring examples from outside, people in the real world, what challenges they faced, how they are solving it. We had a company on mental health, we had a company on food security, And the third part, students work on their own projects, and we source the projects from outside that comes with mentorship. And we are trying to have this diverse set of partners, both in the foundations, nonprofit, for-profit, and even local government, because these problems need that transdisciplinary and multi-sector approach. And that way, students take a very different view to the entrepreneurship. It's not just like go to Sand Hill Road and knock on a few doors, and you need to really have this systemic view. Hope that helps.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We appreciate it.
Mike,
Thank you.
thanks, Narges.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
everybody.
Thanks, everyone.